On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are dealing with injuries, but where are they? What are their realistic expectations for the rest of the season? We'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm here because I have to be here.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. Thanks for being an everyday or making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Joining me, as always, my co-host, the media member, the looking forward fiend, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Well, we have a week of no games until Friday. So here we are. The players are doing their vacations, and we are trudging along. Talk about this Mavs season. It's the final 26. All right, we just got to get, I feel like we've said this for 8 years now. Anybody who says second half of the season right now, just blast them to the sun. All right.
If you count the playoffs, it is the second half of the season.
Okay.
Second half of the NBA season. It is not the second half for every NBA team. It is the second half for probably like 4 teams. Yeah, right. Yeah. There's 26 games left for the Mavs. So today's episode, we're going to talk about those 26 games. Where are the Mavericks? What are they? What are their injury statuses? What does their schedule look like? Should they tank? If they did tank, what would happen? How close could they get to actually something that's necessary? What's the ceiling for the Mavericks if AD comes back, if he doesn't? We'll get into all that. So let's start here. This Dallas Mavericks team, they have 26 games left in this season. You start to look at some of their injuries, and we've got a lot of questions on the text line of people just saying, can you just give us dates? Can you just give us a day so I can circle on my calendar and think, all right, now the Mavs will be back? No, the answer is no. There's so many different injuries and so many different things that they're dealing with right now. Anthony Davis was supposed to be out 4 weeks. That would put him like at mid-March. So we'll see what happens then. And we'll see if they reevaluate or if they see if they could announce in the next couple of days he's out for the season, right? Like that's the way the Mavs injuries have been reported so far this season. Is like all of a sudden Gafford was like, we'll reevaluate him in 2 weeks. And then he was out for 6 weeks with a grade 3 tear. Like it just was a ridiculous thing. With Gafford, they say 6 more weeks. We'll see with that. I've seen 12 weeks from some other like sports medicine doctors to talk about a grade 3 actual like tear in the MCL. Lively, maybe another month. He's supposed to be reevaluated on the 19th if we take the Mavs timeline actually seriously. So he's supposed to be reevaluated there, and we'll see with that. So it could be another month. That puts him mid-March. So if everything goes well for all these injuries and they're right about all these things, that they haven't been about any injuries the entire season, if they're right about all those things, mid-March, they could all be back with a month left in the season.
Are you coping?
But who is expecting that? They're like, I'm not expecting. So the Mavericks will not have any of their centers, I think, probably for the rest of the season. But we'll see what happens with AD. His is the one that seems to be the least concerning, even though he was dealing with it before, or the least long-term, I guess, than the other two. But because of that, I think the Mavericks now, their goals have changed, Isaac.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, your goal has changed. Obviously the trade happens and you're still going for it. Like you're still, as the phrasing was, it helps us win now more, and defense wins championship and all the stuff. So, they're all in for going for it. But does it realistically, with everything that led up to the trade, had the goals even changed before the trade? As far as like, I think going into the season, it was like, hey, finish with the top 2 to 3 record in the West, at worst home court. And then I feel like we did a whole goal thing, I think right before the trade, or maybe even after it, right after, before, some of the AD injury and stuff. And we're like, all right, just make the top 6. All right, just the top 6. The goal starts like, going down a little bit. And now it just depends on the direction you want to go. Of if you do get everybody in there and everybody's going to be back playing by the end of the season, then yeah, your goal is still championship, but your goal for the regular season is like, you just can't miss everything. I mean, you just can't miss the whole play. If everyone is playing the final like few weeks of the season, then you can't miss the play-in. I mean, yes, if you can still make it in the top 6, which isn't unheard of, right now, coming out of the All-Star break for the final 26, they're setting an 8th. they're a game back from 7. They're 2 games back from 6. So, I mean, it gets a little difficult when you're like, hey, we're 4 games back from the Lakers at 5. Lakers just have to go on a little losing streak or whatever. So, realistically, you're just a couple games back from the Clippers at 6. So it's not unheard of. It's not impossible for you to hit 6, especially if everybody comes back and is healthy. But I think everything hinges on Anthony Davis and what happens with him. Mark Stein, even gave, his update over the weekend of just kind of like what a lot of the reports around has been is like, hey, there's optimism. He's avoided something. They're trying to go through. And somebody asked on subtext in the Q&A, and I was just like, point simple, is like, hey, it feels like they're trying all opportunities right now to make this to where he comes back at the end of the season. We don't have any timetable. He hasn't been at the games, which I'm assuming has something to do with like the treatment and stuff, because I mean, as soon as the trade happened, he was on the bench and at games and super hyped. Like, he's excited. So it's probably taken a lot out of him for him not to be at some of these, these games and stuff. But I think just everything hinges on that and what happens with this AD timetable. Do they already know? They're just waiting, or I think they're legitimately just trying everything possible at the moment to try to get him back playing on the court before the end of the season.
They have to. It all hinges on him. It all hinges on him coming back, because if he doesn't for this season, then what is there to play for? Because you maybe win a play-in game. Because they're not going to win a first-round series against OKC, Memphis, Denver, even the Rockets.
Okay, let me ask you this.
You don't have AD.
If you had to put money down on something,
my money or
your money,
okay,
and this is a broad stroke here. Either one of the 3, AD, Lively, Gafford, plays in another game this season, or all 3 of them do not play in another game this season.
Oh, right now I would go, they all don't play another game.
Sheesh.
That's where I would go, because I don't trust any of the Mavericks like prognostications on injuries, right? Even that Mark Stein report that you said, he came out and said that nobody with any real like knowledge of the situation or insight knows exactly what Anthony Davis's injury is, really, or how long it's going to take. Not what it is. They know what the injury is, but how long it's going to take. It's all just people that are like non-medical people saying, well, they think he's avoided surgery, and so we'll see. So it's not like he's asking the trainers or the guy that may have to do the surgery. Like they're not asking those people right now. And so I don't know what to think of the Anthony Davis injury. And it all hinges on him. If Gafford comes back, that'd be cool. If Lively comes back, that'd be cool. But if AD doesn't come back, then the expectations for this team are maybe make the play-in and maybe win a play-in and make the playoffs and then get swept by a team. Feels like, even though this team fights really hard and they'd probably win a couple games, but
yeah. I mean, I'm with you with that. Of it, if I had to put a bet down on one of those scenarios, it's like, hey, we don't see another game between the other 3. It's different people. They're like, oh, the Mavs are waiting to tell us about AD, and I'm like, honestly, do you like blame them if they're trying everything? Could it be both, that they're like waiting to the last possible moment to tell everybody like that he's going to have surgery or whatever it is, but they're also trying to use every possible scenario for him to get on the court and to play and everything. So I don't know what the timetable or timeline looks like for a surgery like that. So it's like, if the timeline is, whether he has it now or in, 2 or 3 weeks, and it's still going to like not affect, like he could still be back for training camp and everything's like fine for next season, then like, you kind of have to do the due diligence of like waiting out and trying all these treatments to try to get him back on the court, because as we know, they're all in. Like, and if AD, somebody wrote in the Q&A too, is like, hey, if AD's not going to play another game this season, is the season like a sunk cost? Is it done? And it's like, yeah, everything hinges on AD. Like, because I'm with you. If you get Gafford back at the very end, you're like, all right, we have Gafford for the playoffs. Then you're making the play-in, hopefully, if you can stay afloat until then with no bigs, and maybe you get Dwight Powell back soon, but Kessler Edwards, shout out, you're going to be center for the next little bit. But if you can stay afloat and you're in the play-in, you might win a game or 2, but then it's just going to be tough. It's a lot on Kyrie too.
This is where they are. the expectations have changed. The expectations are now just, we'll see if AD comes back. And if he does, then maybe you're hoping to win a first round series. If not, then it's play-in round. Right.
Best case scenario, AD comes back a couple weeks before the end of the season, and you get like hey, Gafford could be back in the first round, something like that, or Lively, one of them, and you stay afloat enough to where you're right there fighting for that 6th seed. And then if you go into the playoffs and you have AD and Kyrie healthy and they're actually playing, don't shake your head, Nick. We're being positive right now.
No, I'm just saying nobody wants to play them then.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's like, if you're going up against a Memphis or a Houston or something like that, that's the only like glimmer right there of saying, well, if we do sneak into the playoffs and we avoid OKC, are you going to be super scared? I don't think anybody's like super scared to face a Houston or a Memphis or something like that. It's not like they're a juggernaut. I think they're really, really good teams, but it's not like they're like a juggernaut that, I think the Lakers probably feel the same way if they sneak into, playoffs.
Right. Exactly. So what if it doesn't go the right way and AD is out? Should they tank? Should they not? That, and the Mavs, they do have one thing going in their favor. We'll talk about it. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting, worrying, wondering what's going to happen. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm going to get any money at all. Then it was waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deductible possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Shut it down! Let's go home! Welcome to Dallas, a city in turmoil.
You love that drop. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Well, we appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We've mentioned our subtext line, our text line, 214-643-8637. Subscribe to that, help support the show, and you can ask us questions and all kinds of stuff and stay up to date with your Mavs and their injuries. There are many injuries. The one thing the Mavs have going for them is their strength of schedule. They have the 20th strength of schedule, which means they have, I think, the 4th easiest schedule in the West the rest of the way. They don't play OKC, Boston, or Cleveland anymore, so you don't have any of those like crazy, insane games. You play Brooklyn twice, the Pelicans, the Hornets, the Sixers, and the Bulls. So you got some of those easier type games. Teams that will start trying to not win games even more so because they want a better chance at Cooper Flag, right? So you do have that in their favor. And the other thing, man, we've been so down on this Mavs team in that beginning of this show, but like, this Mavs team continues to fight. Sometimes it doesn't matter who's on the court, and they could surprise us. And if all of a sudden they're sitting 6th because they've just been fighting like hell over and over again, and it doesn't matter who's on the court, they just keep finding ways to win. I don't know if that I would be surprised because this team has shown over and over again that they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep on throwing people out there and just, I mean, it's the definition of next man up, right? Like, there's a couple of these teams that this year that's went through these like crazy injuries. The Pelicans are one of them. Dallas, feels like there's a team in the East that I'm forgetting that's went through just
Philly.
Yeah, Philly. That's just went through an insane amount of injuries and stuff. But they're getting some solid minutes from Kessler Edwards.
Orlando. Orlando's the one you're thinking.
Orlando, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. It's just a matter of how like sustainable it is. That's the thing. If like sometimes teams stumble into something and it's kind of like a flash in the pan, and it's like, do you believe that what they've done over the past 5 or 6 games post trade, do you think it's a flash in the pan? It's just so different and they're just busting their butts off and it's like, all right, they've won these games, or do you think this is something that can sustain them the rest of the season and all of that? That's where I lean a little bit towards like flash in the pan ish, that can you sustain that effort, that small ball everything for the rest of the season? That's just asking a lot of some guys that are like two-way guys. Or I mean, Brandon. I mean, I made the joke the other day of, hey, if you asked me literally a year ago, 12 months ago, hey, 12 months, 12 months from now, you're going to be watching Brandon Williams and Kyler Kelly pick and rolls, and Luka's going to be wearing a Lakers jersey. I just okay, like, so there's some rehab facilities that I'd like to, forward you, but it's just, that's just where they as like, you're asking a lot of Kessler Edwards right now. They literally just don't have a center out there. So can you make it work in the coming, and you're kind of going to force Jason Kidd to be a really good coach if that's
Why'd you say it like that? You're gonna have to force Jason Kidd to be.
No, well, I'm just saying it's naturally a little bit different.
His work is cut out for him.
Yeah. I mean, because like it's a different type of coaching job whenever you have a Luka Doncic, a guy, whether you center the offense around him, you have an MVP candidate, compared to you don't have a center on the roster, and you really got to figure out ways to defend and rebound and hit shots and all the stuff. So now you're looking for a drop.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys. You gotta ask them. I'm just the coach.
You said force Jason Kidd to be a good coach. That was really fun.
I said a really good coach.
Oh, okay. So either way.
So okay, I think this is the question of I've seen and we went through years of this, right? Of the tank or no tank. I mean, we were there in the beginning days of our podcast
last year. They tanked at the end of 2 years ago. They tanked at the end of the season. So, and
it was like, hey, tank or no tank, and the debate and all this stuff. And I see some people throwing out the dude, just go get Cooper Flag right now. Okay,
yeah.
Tank for Cooper. And my only thing back to those people is like, hey, we're kind of too far down the road to get a Cooper Flag. To get into that top level, because right now, let's just say, I think everything hinges on the Anthony Davis injury, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say they do announce Anthony Davis isn't going to come back for the rest of the year, and they're looking at it and they're like, well, how far, like, our ceiling just dropped dramatically. Do we shut Kyrie down at some point towards the end of the season? Do we just try to get the highest pick possible since they own their pick? And it's like, there's only, even if they did everything now and shifted everything now, which they're not, I don't know if you could probably lose more games than Minnesota, Orlando, Atlanta, maybe, but Golden State could pass you up. Yeah. Sacramento could pass you up. Phoenix could pass you up. But Portland's sitting there at the 9th pick right now. They've lost 32 games. You're not going to lose more. No matter how good they've been lately, you're not going to lose more games than Portland. All right. The rest of the season, you're not going to make up that difference. So I guess that's my thing is, I don't think, barring on something crazy, I think if they did decide to tank, I think the highest pick you're possibly looking at is something around the, 10 to 13 range.
And 10 to 13 puts you you have maybe 12% to get a top 4 pick or something like that. Or, 8% at 11. At 11, it's 9%. You literally have a 9% chance to be in the top 4.
And hey,
which is not nothing.
That's where you got Dereck Lively too, right? They got it right around there, traded and, dropped a few picks, got Dereck Lively, got the guy that they wanted. So there's some good players. We've got questions about it already this past week of what's their draft look like in the late lottery? There's some good players. I really like this draft. It's just slow the horses on the, hey, we can lose and get Cooper Flag if we tank the rest of the season. That's just not going to happen, barring some crazy thing.
And I think this is just hypothetical. I don't think there's any scenario, even if AD's out the rest of the season, they shut down Kyrie, Clay, and do all that.
Oh, I think there is. I think AD's out the rest of the season. I think at some point towards the end of the season, maybe not
3 or 4 games left. Sure.
No. I think it'd be earlier than that. I think if AD is out for the regular season, I think we'd definitely see him come out of the break, winning some, trying to win some games and stuff, especially the Lakers game. But I think if AD's out the rest of the season, there's a real possibility that Lakers game on April 9th could be just brutal, that the Mavs could be tanking and Luka and them are coming in fighting for playoff seeding, and Luka drops 45. And the story just literally just writes itself at that point.
Yeah, but then we talked yesterday about the Mavs, what their plans are going forward. and they want to use some of these assets. A lot of comments. I can't believe Nick wants to trade the young assets for a win now player.
Yeah,
no,
Nick.
This is what the Mavericks want to do right now. They had interest in Kevin Durant. They are gonna go. They're in right now. Like they want to win right now. And so, a better pick helps them get to that point if they don't think that they can win right now this season, because the AD injury is just gonna hold them back.
And listen, for years there, I was like team like no tank, all the stuff. I think at where you're at now, if AD's out the rest of the season, I think it's the smart move to do is to try to get up. It's the final 26 games. I think you pack it in and you try to build your young guys over this final month, and you pack it in and you say, hey, like, we're going to try to get the highest pick possible. And we got Lively around this range, and try to add another young piece to this roster.
Yeah. And bet on we've drafted well in the past and try again and do that.
Yeah. I think that's your goal. Develop Omax to be a star. I'm trying, guys.
Coming up, what can they do the rest of the way? Can they develop Omax? What benefits could the Mavs have? What's their ceiling now? We'll talk about some of that and more. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Hungryroot. I've got an issue that there's just so many things to do. There's so many different scenarios to work through for the Mavericks. There's so many games coming up, and I don't have time to try to eat healthier, and I've got to figure out a way to do that. You got so many different things that go along with that. It's not just, all right, I want to eat healthy, then all of a sudden you do. You've got to go to the grocery store. You've got to pick recipes. You got to make them and actually put them together, stick to your health goals, macros, all that kind of stuff. Everything changed when we discovered Hungryroot. It's been game-changing. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. Hungryroot combines a personal shopper and a nutritionist all in one, and meal prep, all that kind of stuff. Takes care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals, groceries based on my taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory, high protein, gluten-free, whatever you need. Hungryroot can help you do that. And the best part is it's ready in 15 minutes or less. Every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great. All developed straight to my door. All delivered straight to my door. It's a huge time saver. Check out Hungryroot, and for a limited time, you get 40% off your first box and free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA. LockedOnNBA. Hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out.
Yeah.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thank you. That was the fourth time I had done that ad today.
It wasn't like that, though.
No, none of them were like that.
Hungryroot.
All right, Isaac. Let's try to find some bright spots in the rest of the season.
Yeah.
You mentioned developing Omax. Is there something else the rest of the season that, let's say, even if AD gets shut down, what can we take away from this? The Grizzlies a couple years ago, or last year, had Gigi Jackson just all of a sudden emerge as a player for them, and now he's somebody that they're going to rely on the back half of this season. What's something the Mavericks can look at and say, all right, it may not be good, but we're going to take something from this season?
Yeah, I mean, how versatile is Max Christie, right? Like, I mean, that's I was at church on Sunday, and somebody asked me about Max Christie. And I was like, dude, when is this ever, going to happen for him? But he's at least getting some buzz, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of Mavs fans right now that want to move on, and they want to be excited about this current roster. And I hear you. Like, I get that. Like, you see at a home game right now, when they go on a little run, or, there's some big plays, the arena is going insane. Like, so, they're Mavs fans excited about this current team and these players. And Max Christie's one of those guys, right? Like, I mean, he's fun. He's 22. I think one of the things the rest of the season is, like, how versatile is he? We kind of unfairly give these people labels, not trying to be Eddie Johnson here, of 3-and-D. But I think he's just way more than a 3-and-D guy. Is he a guy that you're going to run all your offense through? No, probably not. But I think he's, a really good 3-and-D guy. And, like, let's just see how versatile he is. Why not? Like, run some offense to him. And if he messes up, who cares? Try some of that stuff out. So, in a perfect world, this is where Lively is healthy, and you're trying some stretch 3 stuff with Lively. You're trying to expand his game in that. I'm fascinated to see Dereck Lively. They're kind of like plan for him with AD. And I mean, doesn't answer your question because we're probably not going to get it this season. But in like a world without Luka, Lively, like catching lobs. I mean, kind of same for Gafford, but Lively's like one of your your young core pieces. So I think it's just developing the young guys and seeing what you have, and you kind of know more what you have in Max Christie, but is one of these other young guys something that you want to keep moving forward?
Oh, I think you know that you have something in Max Christie, but I think to your point of finding out how versatile he is, I still don't think they know that, like how much he can be tasked to do and how much he can potentially do. Have you seen the stat going around that Max Christie has had more 15-point games with the Mavericks than he did his entire time with the Lakers? I think he played like 150 games, something like that. But he's averaging 17 points a game in the 6 games that he's playing 34 minutes. Jason Kidd obviously trusts him. And we've seen him do some things where he's handling the ball in a pick and roll. And I'd love to see him be able to do that with a Gafford and a Lively instead of a Kessler Edwards or an Max or a Klay Thompson even, somebody that can actually do it. So I wish we could see that more. But yeah, give him the ball, see what happens, have him defend different guys. One of the most interesting things about him that I had heard in all like the prep and stuff is when we had that crossover with the Locked On Lakers guys, the Kamenetskis. They talked about how Christie was one of their best defenders on Wembanyama. And like just a weird thing about him is he's able to defend bigger a little bit better in that way, or at least just Wembanyama, he was really good on him. And so just try a bunch of different things like that. You don't know what you have until you find out. And so I think Christie is definitely one of those guys. Is there another guy you're looking at? You mentioned what can we take with us? Like who's another young guy?
I mean, you kind of just got to ride Omax if you decide to go the young guy route at the, what?
Pause.
No, stop. I think the ship has sailed on Hardy. Sorry for the Hardy believers out there.
He's just in a funk, man. Like he is in the biggest funk right now. He's missing a bunch of free throws. Like even for him, like I'm with you that I don't think it's gonna happen for him as far as he's an NBA starter. He's all that. He was an NBA player though. He's just not playing like an NBA player right now.
No, he's not. Yeah, and he has this extension that he signed, at $6 million a year and stuff. So I would just be shocked if he's not, once that calendar year kicks over, that's a $6 million contract right there that you're adding up salary wise that I think some people kind of forget about this summer. I don't expect him to be on the team next year. It just feels like it's kind of like played its course at that point. But I think it's the Omax, it's the Kessler Edwards. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Kyler Kelly, but it's really comes down to Omax. I mean, Omax.
You don't know how I feel about him, or you don't know how the Mavericks do?
Either.
I think I know both. I don't think that they think he's an NBA player.
Yeah, so it's like Omax was, first round pick in the Lively draft. You get him in the, late 20s or in the early 20s there in that trade with. They obviously target him. They want to go get him. Yeah. I love when they draft him. It's just taking a little bit more time, and it is hard. Like I'm gonna take up for him here. Shocker. It is hard to like develop as a player whenever you're on a win now team and your team goes to the finals, all that stuff. You're not getting really a ton of run. He's going to the G League and back, and he's also looked scared out there at times. I feel like he's had some of his best moments on the floor this year and some different games here and there. So I think for them, it's like, hey, like we got to figure out exactly what we want to do, like the direction we want to go with Omax this summer or heading into next season. If they decide, like, hey, let's see what we have in the young guys the rest of the season.
The young guys is like it's kind of just Omax, Christie, I guess Kessler Edwards, but Kessler Edwards was 24, and I don't know what else you're getting. He's giving you some good hustle moments and things like that, but what else is he developing into? We mentioned Hardy. You're kind of like out of young guys at this point. Brandon Williams.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, yeah. So the injury stuff, we're just like super late in the game here. We talked about the centers, but
the bigs are the big ones.
You have PJ and Caleb Barton, and I fully expect PJ Washington to play in the first game back from the All-Star break. And then Caleb Martin, posts on his Instagram about, hinting that he's going to be back soon. I think that's one of them too is, hey, let's try to get, I wouldn't say, this season's been the best season for Caleb Martin in Philly. How can you use the final 26 games if AD's out or something like that, and you're not going, all for it. I think that's one of the things too, is like, how can you try to help Caleb Martin get the confidence back or get back to where he was when Philly signed him, and everybody lost their minds because like, how did Philly sign him for such a cheap contract? And what a steal and all this stuff. And he was kind of like relegated to this, like, I don't know, was weird, like, I don't know, role. Like, I don't know.
Wild thing about the rest of the season, something I'm gonna take away. They have to play small ball now. We've been asking them to play it for this whole time. And so with PJ and Martin back, play it. See what you got, and see if you can catch teams off guard. And I think that's what they're gonna have to do the rest of this season, because nobody's gonna be ready for. How do you plan for the Mavericks right now? There's not a lot of film on this. I guess you plan for Kyrie, but it's just so different than what they've been the whole season.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's completely different. Not just Luka, but they don't have any of their main bigs, and the identity that they want to go after. Which shout out to all the, hey, look at the Mavs defensive numbers right now. I'm like, guys, I think we're missing a little bit.
Yeah, the context is missing
to judge the defense right now. But it's just a whole different team that you even like plan for. And Kyrie, if Kyrie's out there, he's going to bust his butt, and he's going to fans for the time being of like, see this team. They're the complete underdogs going into most matchups. They don't have any, any players over 6'9", and they're going to go out there and be scrappy. Everybody's going to give effort, and there's no doubt that every single player on the floor is going to give effort at all times.
Yeah. That's what we'll take from this season. We'll see where they are, but their expectations and their goals have definitely changed. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Thanks for checking out the show. We have different ways to follow. Check the links in the description or search Locked On Mavs everywhere. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.